they thought I'd never find out. My wife and my best friend, the two people I trusted most, were secretly laughing behind my back. But what they didn't know was that I had already set my plan in motion. And when I finally caught them, I didn't shout. I destroyed them silently. Before I tell you how it all unfolded, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this story. Because trust me, this isn't just a story. It's a lesson about betrayal and the kind of revenge you'll never see coming. They say real happiness doesn't announce itself. It just quietly settles into your life until you forget how rare it actually is. That's how it was for me. Every morning I'd wake up next to Clara, sunlight brushing across her hair, and I'd think, this is it, the kind of peace you spend your whole life chasing. We had a small house near the lake, a dog that refused to sleep anywhere but our bed, and laughter that filled the air like background music. It wasn't perfect, but it felt close enough to make me believe it was. And then there was Noah. My best friend since we were kids. The kind of guy who knew all my stories, every failure, every stupid dream. We'd built everything side by side, our careers, our futures, even our sense of loyalty. I trusted him with things I didn't even trust myself with. When Clara came into my life, he was the first to tell me she was the one. He stood beside me at the altar, clapping the loudest when I said I do. Back then, I thought the three of us were unshakable. We had this rhythm, weekend dinners, game nights, unplanned road trips. I used to joke that we were like family, and maybe that's why I didn't notice the small things. The way Noah's eyes lingered on Clara when he thought I wasn't looking, or how she'd suddenly change the topic whenever his name came up. I brushed it all off as imagination. After all, when you love people that deeply, you give them the benefit of every doubt. But sometimes, comfort blinds you. You stop seeing what's right in front of you, and before you know it, the people you'd take a bullet for are the ones quietly loading the gun. Clara wasn't just my wife, she was my calm in the storm. I met her when my life was falling apart after losing my father, after losing direction. She had this way of listening without judging, of making silence feel safe. Every morning, she'd leave small notes on the kitchen counter, little reminders that I wasn't alone. Sometimes just a word like breathe or you've got this. I thought love was supposed to fade with time, but with her it only deepened. At least, that's what I believed. Noah had always been a part of that story too. We were inseparable, from school fights to late-night beers after long workdays. He was there through every heartbreak, every victory. He used to say, "You're the brother I never got." And I believed it. When I introduced him to Clara, the way they clicked made me feel proud. Two people I loved most in the world, getting along, what could be better than that? Sometimes I even joked that Noah knew Clara almost as well as I did. I didn't know how close that would come to being true. We built memories that I thought would last forever, double dates, movie nights, laughter that echoed through our house. Clara would call Noah when I was busy, ask him to fix the lights, or carry something heavy, and I never questioned it. Why would I? Trust was something that lived naturally between us. But trust has a strange way of testing its own limits. You never realize how fragile it is until the first crack appears. I didn't see it coming then, the distance, the whispers, the half-smiles. Love blinded me so completely, I mistook warning signs for comfort. It started with a message I almost didn't open. I remember that night clearly. Clara was in the shower, humming softly, and my phone buzzed on the table. The message came from an unknown number. "You should see what your wife does when you're not around." My first instinct was laughter. That bitter kind of laugh you give when something feels too ridiculous to be real. I deleted it immediately. I told myself it was probably a scam, some stranger trying to stir chaos. And yet, even after deleting it, the words burned in my mind like a slow ember. When Clara came out, I looked at her, really looked. She was drying her hair, smiling at me like always, and for a second, I felt guilty for even doubting her. I wrapped my arms around her, whispered that I loved her, and she said it back with that same warmth I'd always known. But something inside me shifted that night. I couldn't shake the thought. What if there's truth hidden in the noise? Over the next few days, I started noticing little things. Clara suddenly guarded her phone like it held state secrets. She'd walk into another room when she answered calls. Her laughter, the one that used to belong to us, now sounded forced, distant. When I asked what was wrong, she smiled and said, "Just work stress, Eli." I wanted to believe her so badly that I convinced myself I did, but at night when she slept beside me, I'd stare at the ceiling, replaying every moment that didn't make sense. Doubt is a quiet poison. It doesn't scream, it whispers. And once it gets in, it never really leaves. The more I tried to ignore my doubts, the louder they became. It was like living with a ticking clock inside my head. Every second a question, every silence a clue. Clara had started working late, claiming deadlines and meetings that seemed endless. And Noah? Well, he had suddenly become busy too. The strange part was, their excuses started sounding the same. One night, Clara texted that she was stuck at the gym. An hour later, Noah sent a message in our group chat. Same excuse, same timing. I told myself it was coincidence, but deep down something in me cracked. There were moments that felt staged, like rehearsed lines in a bad play. Clara's perfume would linger in the car, even when she claimed she'd taken a cab. Her phone was always face down. She laughed less. She touched me less. Love has a rhythm, and ours was slowly falling out of sync. I remember one evening, I went to surprise her at her office. I brought her favorite takeout chicken teriyaki and jasmine tea, but the receptionist said she'd left hours ago. I stood there for a long time, holding that paper bag like it was proof of my stupidity. I drove home with the food untouched, the smell filling the car like a cruel reminder. That night I lay awake beside her, watching her sleep peacefully while my mind screamed. I told myself I needed proof not because I wanted to catch her, but because I needed to silence the war inside me. But something told me that once I started looking, I'd never be able to unsee what I'd find. And still, I had to know. Because sometimes the truth hurts less than not knowing at all. I've always believed that the truth finds a way to reveal itself, but that night I decided to help it along. It was a Tuesday when the thought first came to me. I'd been sitting in my car outside the house, watching the lights flicker through the curtains. Clara had told me she was staying late again. I'd already checked Noah's social media, his location tag set out for a client dinner. Funny how both dinners seemed to happen at the same time, every time. That's when I realized I couldn't keep guessing. I needed to see it with my own eyes. So, I ordered a small hidden camera online. Nothing fancy, just something discreet, easy to miss, easy to forget. When it arrived, I waited until Clara went to visit her sister for the weekend. I spent that entire Saturday pretending to watch TV, waiting for the sound of her car fading away before I finally got up and did it. My hands were shaking as I fixed the device inside a decorative clock in our living room. It felt wrong, invasive, paranoid even, but love and trust had already left the room long before I pressed record. That night, I sat alone, staring at that silent clock. I kept telling myself I was overreacting, that I'd find nothing, that I'd laugh about this one day. But deep down, I knew laughter wouldn't be part of the ending. Days passed. Nothing happened. Every time I checked, the footage was painfully ordinary. Empty rooms. Quiet evenings, her sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone. Then came Friday night. My phone pinged, new recording detected. And before I even opened it, I felt my heart beat slow, like my body already knew what my mind didn't want to see. It was raining that night, one of those steady, endless rains that make the world sound quieter than it should. I remember sitting in the dark, only the glow of my laptop lighting the room. I clicked on the new recording, expecting to see nothing again, maybe Clara watching TV or feeding the dog. But within seconds, my entire body went still. The door opened. Clara walked in, not with the tired slump of someone home from work, but with the light, easy steps of someone excited to see someone else. And then behind her came Noah, my best friend. My brother in everything but blood. He wasn't supposed to be there. He wasn't supposed to look at her that way. They laughed, a sound I used to love, one that now felt like a blade turning in my chest. She touched his arm the way she used to touch mine. Soft, familiar, intimate. They talked for a while, close, whispering things the camera couldn't catch, but their eyes said enough. Then she kissed him. Slow, deliberate, certain. My hands were trembling so hard I almost dropped the laptop. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream, to break something, to erase what I had just seen, but all I did was sit there, frozen. The rain outside grew louder, almost like it was mocking me. I don't know how long I stared at that screen, replaying the same few seconds again and again, hoping for a different ending that would never come. That night I didn't cry. I didn't even move. Something inside me had already gone silent. Because when betrayal hits that deep, it doesn't explode. It sinks in quietly, and it never really leaves. The next morning, I looked at Clara like I was seeing a stranger wearing her face. She smiled, kissed my cheek, poured my coffee, everything exactly as she'd done 100 times before. But something in me had changed. My love had turned into silence. A heavy, deliberate silence. I realized that sometimes the best revenge doesn't come from anger, but from control. So I decided not to confront her. Not yet. I wanted her to believe that I was still blind. For the next few days, I lived 2 lives. In one, I was the same husband she knew, gentle, predictable, trusting. In the other, I was a man studying his enemy, memorizing every lie, every pattern, every moment she thought I wasn't watching. I noticed how her eyes lit up at every message she tried to hide, how she suddenly forgot to mention where she was going. And Noah, he called less, but whenever he did, his voice trembled. They both knew they were walking on borrowed time. At night, I'd lie beside her, pretending to sleep while she texted under the blanket, her screen lighting her face like a secret flame. I wanted to hate her right then, to scream and demand answers, but I didn't. I waited, because the truth deserved an audience. I began to plan quietly, with precision. No yelling, no drama, just clarity. If they thought they were clever, I'd show them what calm fury looked like. I wanted them to feel the weight of what they'd done, not through my anger, but through their own shame. I was done being the man who didn't see. Now, I was the storm they never saw coming. I planned the night with the precision of a man who had nothing left to lose and everything to reveal. It wasn't a confrontation, not yet. It was a stage, and they were the actors who had been rehearsing behind my back for months. I told Clara we were celebrating our anniversary early, a small dinner with a few close friends. Noah, of course, was invited. I watched her excitement grow, completely unaware that she was walking into a trap built from every lie she'd ever told me. The restaurant was perfect, dim but warm lighting, elegant tables, soft music floating through the air. Everyone else thought it was a celebration. I thought of it as a reckoning. I played the part of the calm, loving husband, smiling at Clara, joking with friends, pretending nothing was wrong. But inside, I was calculating every moment, every glance, every heartbeat. When the main course was served, I excused myself briefly, just long enough to connect my phone to the restaurant's projector system. The screen behind the couple lit up quietly, unassuming, waiting. No one noticed, not Clara, not Noah. My hands were steady, my mind sharp. The truth was ready to speak louder than any of my words ever could. I returned to my seat, leaning back, pretending to sip my wine. Clara laughed, unaware, her eyes bright with love that no longer belonged to me. Noah chuckled beside her, oblivious to the storm gathering just behind the veil of normalcy. And then, in a heartbeat, the room would change. In a heartbeat, they'd realize that the calm man they'd underestimated was the one holding the power of truth, a truth that would leave them stripped, exposed, and utterly undone. Because sometimes the most devastating revenge isn't loud. It's silent, deliberate, and unstoppable. The moment the video played, the room shifted. At first, it was just the soft hum of the projector, nothing more than a background flicker. Then I saw them, Clara and Noah, laughing, touching, betraying me in ways I had only imagined in my darkest nights. The laughter that once felt like music now sounded like knives. Clara froze first. Her eyes went wide, her mouth opening and closing like she was trying to swallow the shock. Noah's face paled, that familiar confidence replaced with the raw panic of a man caught mid-crime. I didn't speak. I didn't yell. I let the footage speak for itself, every gesture, every glance. Every kiss laid bare for everyone in that elegant, unsuspecting restaurant. Guests murmured, glasses clinking softly as they processed what they were seeing. The atmosphere shifted from celebration to suffocating tension. Clara's hands flew to her face. Noah stammered, searching for excuses that wouldn't come. I could see the betrayal in their eyes as clearly as the betrayal that had cut through me. This wasn't just exposure, it was the mirror I had been denied for months. I stood slowly, calm, deliberate. Every step echoed in the quiet chaos I had orchestrated. I caught Clara's gaze one last time. There was no pleading from me, no outburst, just the weight of truth settling between us like a final sentence. To loyalty. What a beautiful lie, I said softly, letting the words hang in the air. I walked out, leaving the room spinning. They thought the night was about romance. They thought I would confront them with anger. But anger is fleeting. Truth, once unleashed, has a permanence that no lie can survive. And in that silence I realized this was not just exposure. This was justice. This was karma. After that night, the world I had known didn't exist anymore. Clara called incessantly, her voice trembling with panic, begging me to take the footage down, to forgive her, to explain herself. I didn't answer. I let the phone ring, let the messages pile up unread. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she had done, the way I had felt for months, gnawed from the inside by betrayal. Noah tried to reach me too, stammering apologies, excuses that sounded hollow even in my memory. I made sure his professional life felt the ripple of his actions. The video found its way to people who mattered. Suddenly, doors that had been open for him slammed shut. He realized too late that some betrayals cannot be brushed aside. Claire's parents discovered the truth. Family gatherings dissolved into cold silence, whispers following her like shadows wherever she went. Friends I once trusted in common became silent witnesses to her disgrace. And through it all, I stayed quiet. I didn't yell. I didn't confront. I let the world around them fracture, let their lives reflect back the consequences they had sown. I remember driving past Claire's apartment one evening. She was sitting on the steps, crying into her hands, the rain soaking her hair, her pride stripped bare. Noah was nowhere in sight, packing his things, leaving behind the remnants of a friendship I had once cherished. And me, I felt nothing, not triumph, not satisfaction, not even sadness. Sometimes revenge isn't a spark, it's a slow burn. Watching them unravel quietly, knowing that their own choices had delivered the punishment, that was enough. I had given them nothing but truth, and the truth, in its purest form, is a reckoning no lie can survive. Months passed. Time has a strange way of softening the pain, but it also sharpens clarity. Clara showed up at my door one rainy afternoon, broken and humbled. Her hair hung in damp strands, her expensive coat wrinkled, her pride completely gone. She apologized over and over, words tumbling out faster than I could respond. She begged for forgiveness, for understanding, for anything that might undo the ruin she had created. But I knew deep down that forgiveness could not erase the consequences of her choices. She told me Noah had left her, finally. All those stolen moments, all the lies and secret glances, had dissolved into nothing. He had abandoned her once the world made her unrecognizable, and the betrayal that had once been hidden was now fully returned. She was alone, stripped of the safety she had taken for granted, left to face the fallout of her own actions. I listened quietly, letting her words fall into the heavy air of my apartment. I didn't argue, I didn't shout, and I didn't offer comfort. Instead, I handed her an envelope. Inside were divorce papers. Final, unchangeable, along with a single note that said everything I could never say aloud. You both taught me what love isn't. Consider this my thank you. Clara looked at me, searching for anger or hatred in my eyes, but found only calm. That calm was the quiet power of karma, a force she had set in motion herself. I didn't need to strike back. I didn't need to scream or shame. Life had delivered her reckoning perfectly, and all I had to do was watch. For the first time in months, I felt light. The weight of betrayal had lifted. The storm had passed, and in its place, Peace remained. Sitting alone in my apartment, I finally let the silence settle around me. For months, I had carried a storm inside, a mix of anger, heartbreak, and disbelief. But now, with Clara and Noah gone from my life in the ways they deserved, I could feel something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. It wasn't a loud, triumphant peace, not the kind you shout about. It was quiet, steady, and deep, the kind that comes from knowing justice doesn't always need your hands to enforce it. I reflected on everything that had happened, every subtle warning I had ignored, every instinct I had brushed off. Love had blinded me, trust had been exploited, and betrayal had cut deeper than I ever imagined. But in that pain, I found a lesson. Revenge isn't about destruction. It's about letting truth take its course. It's letting consequences find the people who deserve them, and letting yourself step away without losing your soul. I realized how fragile happiness can be, how delicate trust is, and how easily the people we hold closest can turn against us. But I also realized something else. Strength doesn't come from retaliation. Strength comes from understanding, from patience, and from rising above the chaos that others create. Now, as I rebuild my life, I focus on what really matters. I nurture myself, my passions, my independence. I paint, I run, I read, I dream, not for anyone else, but for me. And every time I catch a reflection of myself in the mirror, I see a man who survived betrayal without losing his integrity. A man who didn't scream or lash out, but who allowed karma to deliver its perfect justice. Because in the end, the loudest revenge isn't in anger. It's in peace, in freedom, and in the knowledge that the universe has a way of balancing the scales. And I finally feel balanced.